Over the weekend, the No Kings protests and riots erupted. Now, depending on which side of the political aisle you are on, it was either a gathering of around 650,000 or 7 million, marking the largest protest in U.S. history. Well, the one thing I can tell you for sure as well, it is debated the total number of people that were protesting. It's nowhere near the largest protest in U.S. history, because that was, I think it was some kind of Earth Day protest, 20 or 30, actually, what is it, like 40, 50 years ago? 20 million people were estimated to have protested for the environment. Now, the response from the left is, no, actually, that wasn't a protest, so it doesn't count. Well, sure. We don't know the exact number, but what we do know is that riots broke out. And many of these videos that have been put out by these independent journalists have captured the true sentiment of these leftists. And I want to say a few things based on what I've seen. It certainly seems like we are winning, and we as in those who believe in America, American tradition. And that doesn't mean far-right conservatism. It means supporting the Constitution in this country and the interpretations thereof. These are people who are marching down the street saying, "No kings" to Donald Trump. The man who got 77 million votes and won the popular vote was duly elected and is carrying out his agenda as to which he was elected for. So I'm curious, when they say no kings, what do they want? To forcefully remove the duly elected president and install their own version of leader despite being in the minority? That's not democracy. The one thing I think y'all need to understand, and most of you probably do, is that when they say our democracy, they're not talking about you. This is honestly one of the funniest things ever, is that conservatives and people of the right in general, because the right doesn't mean conservative anymore, think that when liberals say our democracy or diversity is our strength, they're assuming that our means you and me. It's really funny. Guys, when France says our democracy, you don't consider yourselves to be a part of France. You're like, yep, those are the French. When the Democrats and the liberals say our strength and our democracy, they're saying it's a different country you are not involved in. There's a great post from Carl Benjamin. When they say diversity is our strength, conservatives respond with, what do you mean our strength? No, it's not unity. Guys, they're not talking about you. They're saying that when they take their political faction, diversify it, it fractures your strength, which is unity. It's really funny because unity is functionally and mathematically proven to be a strength, and diversity literally is not. There's like a certain degree of diversity that is good, diversity of thought. A certain degree of diversity of genetics is good. You don't want homogeneity. But when it comes to social cohesion, diversity is not a strength. It breeds conflict. Now, from these riots in Portland, L.A., Chicago, holy smokes, we see the left for their true colors. So while I say it looks like we are winning, I want to stress the violent bloodlust that is emerging on the political left is getting quite worrying. There's a video of a man who is saying that people in Chicago should murder ICE agents. And this is my fear. Now, it didn't kick off over the weekend to an extreme degree. Well, actually, it's kind of a scary thing to say because it did. There were riots. It wasn't like shootouts and death and murder. It was just riots. But there's a video of a man telling people to buy, this is not exaggeration, buy guns and go and shoot ICE agents. All right. I would like to call this to the attention of Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi. This guy needs to be arrested. Not a question, not a joke. I'll play the video for you. Let's go through it. Actually, let me play the videos for you, and then we're going to play the videos, and then we'll go over these articles and show you the latest. Before we do, my friends, go to castbrew.com. We got big updates coming. We got Mary's Ghost Blend, a s'mores-flavored coffee just in time for Halloween. Pool water is currently, I'm actually surprised we didn't get it available for purchase just yet, but we're currently negotiating with our distributor because actually something big may be happening. It turns out that the company we may be working with may also have an additional product line available. So we're really excited. And I don't want to say too much. Just go to castbrew.com, support the show, Appalachian Nights, Ian's Graphene Dream. sells like hotcakes. I don't know how this guy does it. Ian figured it out. He said low acidity coffee, and everybody said yes. But let's jump back to the news. Here's the video from the No Kings protest. I believe this is in Chicago. I don't even know if I can. I'm gonna play it for you. I'm gonna play it for you.
You gotta grab a gun. We gotta turn around the guns on this fascist system. These ICE agents gotta get.
I can't play the rest. I'm sorry. I know it's newsworthy, but I can't play the rest of that clip because YouTube may delete it. Rumble wouldn't. YouTube may. He says these ICE agents got to get shot and wiped out. That's what he goes on to say. He says it more than once. This is a speaker at No Kings in Chicago telling people to buy guns and kill federal law enforcement officers. He then goes on to say that other things that they have, I'll skip forward.
That's a full display right there. Has to get wiped out. You gotta.
He says of the police, the federal law enforcement, he wants people to buy guns and take them out. Here's another post from End Wokeness. There was apparently this woman. They're identifying as Lucy Martinez. I don't know that it's actually her. I'm not sure. This is what's going viral on X with 1.4 million views, pointing to her neck and jumping up and down at someone who was driving by with an American flag, obviously counter-protest. I don't want to say counter-protesting because it's not like he was marching or anything. Drove through with an American flag, and this woman bounced up and down, pointing to her neck, symbolizing the assassination of Charlie Kirk. They celebrate your death. They want your death. They are calling for the murder of federal agents. Guys, look at this one. A kid stabbing and beating a Trump piñata over and over and over again.
What the hell?
This is crazy stuff. These people are losing their minds. This is what is going on. LA No Kings protest turns into a riot. At least one arrested as violent crowd refuses to disperse. No Kings protester dresses as Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin. Man, we got the story, of course, from Post-Millennial. Rioters attack federal agents. And then we have protesters clash with police outside of Illinois ICE facility from News Nation. Protesters? Protesters don't clash with police. Rioters do. Protests are fine. You can protest by walking down the street, waving a sign that says, thing is bad, me no like. Rioting is when you attack cops and smash things and try to hurt people. But this is what the media likes to do, even News Nation. So here we go. Now, do I really need to read this to you that there was a riot in Portland? There's been a riot in Portland like every night nonstop. So let's take a look what's going on in L.A. Police said nearly 100 agitators marched towards Aliso and Alameda streets, with some using lasers and flashlights against officers and even targeting an LAPD pilot. Here's a video. It's a riot. Well, I think you guys get the point. You don't need to just hear people rabble with cops swinging at them. You get the point. It's a riot. So here's how it works. You are allowed to peaceably assemble, or peacefully assemble. It's in the Constitution right there, huh? The idea of the Founding Fathers was, hey, if we're going to have a meeting to discuss these things, you can't shut us down. Because they used to meet in pubs and bars and clubs and churches to discuss their right to have their own nation. But the Crown didn't want these meetings to take place and would try and break them up. And they said, if we're peacefully coming together, you can't shut us down. This eventually was interpreted by the Supreme Courts to mean that marching through the streets was also covered. Because there were certain circumstances as well with the Founding Fathers where, people had gathered and protested, but peacefully was always the important distinction. The Founding Fathers were under no illusions that you could have violent riots in a successful country. They knew why sometimes the authority, the Crown, the government would use force to break up certain mobs or crowds. They understood that. Their argument was, if we are hanging out at a bar or a pub or a church, you can't come and shut us down because we're peaceful. In Los Angeles, what ends up happening with these far leftists is they obstruct law enforcement, traffic, or otherwise, and it crosses the threshold from peaceful into disturbance. And there's a challenge there. Why should a group of people be allowed to shut down a road other people need? That's a heckler's veto type scenario. Well, I actually think that we as society should tolerate it to a small degree. And what that means is when these people block the streets, they are infringing upon others. They are creating a disturbance, but it is peaceful. So what happens? You will get arrested. Obstructing a roadway, you can't do it. Disorderly conduct, whatever it may be. And you'll get a slap on the wrist. The judge will say, we get it. Your voice has been heard. Court supervision. Don't do it again. Go and have a nice day. The reason why is there's a little bit of tolerance we have as a society for disruption, lest it devolve into assassinations and murder. Doesn't seem to matter all that much these days. But the idea here is the police are going to tell these people, you are unlawfully assembled. You are now breaking the law, and this is not First Amendment protected. So you're going to have to disperse. They'll even tell these people often, stay on the sidewalk, and that's fine. But these people don't. What happens then is the police will say, we are going to clear the street. I've been at hundreds of these things, even in foreign countries. And then what happens in like LA and Portland and Chicago is the protesters become rioters and say, no. They say, we will continue to break the law. Now it's not peaceful anymore. They'll say, this has become unlawful and we're going to push you back. Then they get attacked. Then you get arrests. It is not the fault of the police. You do not have a universal right to obstruct the roads and take over cities. Other people live there too. That is not democracy. But this is where we currently are as a country. No King's protester dresses as Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin. I love how this is a story in and of itself. He did. He got the hat. He got the shirt. These people are absolutely insane. But there's one thing I can tell you. The reason why I say we're winning, young people are voting Trump. They're moving to the right. I see what Zoomers are doing on TikTok and Instagram with Sora AI, having Martin Luther King Jr. Running full speed from DC, screaming, seeing these. Look, man, they're making crazy videos. There's one where it's a Disney Pixar movie trailer called Knowing My Place or something like that. Oh, no, it's called Where I Belong. And it's a trailer where a young woman is like, all my life I knew I just needed to wash the dishes and be in the kitchen. And that's what I'm going to do. And it's like the new movie. Like, this is what Zoomers are doing. They are mocking feminism. They are mocking these historical tropes. They are making just a plethora of racist humor. I don't want to necessarily say racist, because it's not, it's racial. These jokes, these videos that are coming up, because they mock everybody, white people included. The old taboos of cancel culture are out the window with the new generation. I was talking to an older man earlier this weekend who is a left liberal guy. And he jokingly called me far right and another guy further right. And it was really funny when the conversation expanded into birth rates and what's happening in this country. And this ultimately turned it into a larger political conversation, to where I pointed out I'm actually kind of far left economically. I mean, I posted my political compass and I'm, left libertarian leaning. And this old man was confused, like, but they say you're far right. And no, it was actually really funny because he goes, well, not the things you say on your show. And then I said, you've never watched my show. And then he kind of like, well, yeah, you never did, because the left is a cult. Let me show you this, my friends. I love this post. You may have seen this graphic. There's more diversity of thought on the political right than on the political left. You can see that the left is clustered around a narrow set of opinion, and the right has a broad range of opinion. Well, let me just show you exactly what it says. Although they pride themselves on open-mindedness, liberal thinking actually coalesces around a very narrow set of opinion, whereas the right diverges widely. I'd like to stress the key word in this that was highlighted by many on the right in their critique of the left: opinion. This is not a question of fact. This is a question of opinion. Things that aren't necessarily true, but we believe to be. Now, let me try and help out those liberals that may stumble upon this. There are certain facts. There's a fact, for instance, 2 + 2 = 4. Liberals actually think 2 + 2 can equal 5. It can't. 2 + 2 = 4 is a rigid, absolute statement. There are limited, if not almost no absolutes that we can come to except for physics and math. Now, to a broad degree, advanced mathematics does start to devolve into theory and opinion. But for things like 2 + 2 = 4, this is what we know to be a fact. So when liberals, and you know it's really funny because they're going to deny this, but it's Popular Mechanics, I think it was, right? Yep. There we go. Oh, man, I love this. Come on. Popular Mechanics. Why some people think 2 + 2 = 5 and why they're right. They're not right. They're stupid. What they're doing is manipulative reasoning, saying 2 + 2 could represent an estimate rounded down. And if it is, then it's 5. So they say 2.4 is rounded down to 2. But if you did 2.4 plus 2.4, you'd get 4.8, which is rounded up to 5. And it's like, yes, those are absolute statements, though. 2.4 is an absolute number. You're not putting 2.x and then saying, equals y, which is a variable set. This is an absurdity believed by lunatics. But let's go back. Here's the statement. I love this. This Travis Metters guy says, what this chart actually shows is what happens when you destroy the distinction between true and false. People will just believe anything. The blue is a uniform reality based on facts. The red is the vast expanse of alternate realities and cotton candy dreams the right lives in. You see, this is what they do. Liberals believe that their opinions are actually facts. And if you don't agree with their opinions, you're not on the left. So what ends up happening is actually quite funny. Notice this cluster of the right. And you can see that there actually is. The lines do connect left to right. I wonder how they actually mapped this. But what's funny is the right actually has a right and a left. So I probably fall closer in the left quadrant of the right movement because this whole cluster is actually just America. So here's what I like to do. Let me do this. I'm going to open this up. Okay. Oops. That was I misclicked. Here you go. We're going to zoom in and I'm going to show you what America looks like by focusing only on this cluster. This is the actual political bifurcation of the United States, circa 1995, probably. And we can ignore everything to the left of this. This right here is what I refer to as the Constitutional Republic of the United States. It is a group of conservatives on the right and liberals on the left. The left comprises moderate centrist types like your Joe Rogans, your Colin Wrights, your James Lindsay's, as it were, for all of the complaints I have of him. And as well, it includes me. I am not a traditional conservative. I'm actually economically liberal in a variety of ways, not a laissez-faire capitalist, not even a strong free market guy for the most part, but kind of, in the middle, mixed economy, but we can have that debate. And this is what America always was. But something happened, and I love this graph because it exemplifies a phenomenon I've described for a long time. And that is, at some point, a budding process began. A far left started to grow cancerously on the face of America. And eventually it got so big, it flopped off onto the ground, which gives us this weird hyper-left cluster of a deranged cult. They cluster themselves around opinion, excise anyone who disagrees, and then tell everyone that their opinions are facts. I want to stress this. Opinion is the key word here. The reality is this. Certainly, there are people in this red cluster that think the earth is flat. It's an overwhelmingly fringe minority that doesn't play a role in day-to-day politics. The arguments here are actually things like death penalty or no death penalty. There are some on the right that say yes, some say no, some say absolutely. Some say ban abortion outright, some say just limitations on abortion. Because this is where America has always been. This deranged cluster is entirely separate from the rest of us. And this is the conflict we are facing. This small cluster is what is on the streets calling for death and calling for murder of all of these other people. Now, how are these people in a cult? Well, they coalesce around fake news. They believe lies and manipulation. So, shout out to the older gentleman that I was speaking with this past weekend who genuinely thought I was far right. And then I was like, I'm pro-choice, pro-progressive tax, universal health care. And he goes, well, what about the death penalty? I'm like, yeah, I oppose the death penalty. And then he made a comment about, you don't say that on your show. And I'm like, I say it all the time on my show. You don't watch my show. And he conceded he does not. Because if you're watching the likes of Sam Cedar, your brain is jello. But the right has a variety of people. I mean, come on. On the right, you have ranging from Nick Fuentes to Ben Shapiro. Matt Walsh in between says we must unite with those on the right, even we disagree with, to defeat the left. And Ben's like, nope. Because they say awful things about Jews. But here we are. The right is a general. If you get rid of the left, right? If you just take this cluster, you can see what the actual left-right distinction is. So I'll say one final thing. As these people mock Charlie Kirk, celebrate his assassination, there's a reason why Charlie was a leader, a great leader, and possibly going to be president. Charlie Kirk invited Cenk Uygur, James Lindsay, Tim Pool onto his stage at AmFest. Why? Because the one thing we all agreed on was we love America. And we're willing to have these debates. Charlie said, I want you a part of the conversation, as a part of the conversation. Even if it was Cenk Uygur. What ends up happening? Charlie was trying to create this image to be America, where despite the fact that we may disagree on many issues, we were all connected. He was trying to ice out this weird cult. And for that, they killed him. And they call for more death. Well, this weekend didn't get particularly bad. I think the winter will calm down a bit. And I'm concerned about next year. And I think there will be an escalation. I hope not. Smash the like button, my friends. Share the show. Stay tuned. More to come throughout the day. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all in the next segment.